Damn, that's not a good start. That's not a good start. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to American Scouser's EPL Panel Show. I am joined here with Jamie, Glenn, and Sully as we will review the week before the national break, talk a little bit about the international break, and then talk about the weekend ahead. But first, let's just say hello to Jamie. Welcome back, Jamie. How are you doing?
Doing well. It feels as though the weekend, the games before the international break were a long time ago. International breaks generally feel like 2-3 weeks. So excited to get back to it this weekend.
Glenn, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Yeah, I feel totally the same. Reading these results, Jamie, it's like these games didn't exist. It's so crazy. I'm like, Leeds lost to Tottenham, Bournemouth played well again. It feels like months ago and this kind of missed. But yeah, excited to get back into the Premier League. My weekends just aren't the same without it. I start every Saturday and Sunday with a game, unless I'm playing. So yeah, excited to talk about it and really buzzing for it to be back.
Get back into routine. And then Sully as well. And another person who can enjoy the last result before the national break. How are you doing today?
You guys talk about having like a ton of time off in between these games. I had homecoming and parent-teacher conferences, so it has been a long 2 weeks, but we back, boys. We back.
We are so back, and back as well as Hassan. Good evening, Hassan. Thanks for joining us tonight. So we'll just get right into it. We'll look at the match week before the international break. And I think we'll just pop this up on the screen here, in assuming that I can still properly conduct this kind of thing, which I can. Surprise, surprise. So I guess talk to me, Jamie, before we talk Chelsea-Liverpool, because obviously we can spend a lot of time on that for you specifically. Anything outside of that match that you were pleasantly surprised by, anything you were shocked by, anything to really take away that you think we didn't know or we should take away from?
I think Everton getting a win over Palace. Palace that had a stellar start to the season. So that's a really, really good 3 points. And I guess shows that that form that they started off with maybe is here to stay. And maybe they're going to kind of recreate that Everton role, looking for like 7th, 8th in the league. Who knows? Other than that, pretty routine. I guess Man United actually winning is probably a surprise, and a clean sheet as well. That shouldn't be a surprise, but the fact that we're talking about it obviously means something.
Yeah. Glenn, anything over to you? I know, as Jamie just mentioned, pretty much most of it seems routine. Maybe Brighton dropping points against Wolves was a bit of a surprise given where Wolves are at right now. But when you go to Molineux, it's never an easy fixture. So anything else that popped out from you that weekend?
No, it was interesting because obviously you get the pressure on Amorim, and that lifted ever so slightly with the Sunderland win. Had Sunderland beaten Man United, there would have been even more pressure on him. But conversely, obviously Newcastle's, we'll talk about Sully. I think it's arguably the hardest place to go in English football. It's one of the hardest places, and it did Ange no favors, did it, really, having that as his next fixture? So that was one that stands out because it increased the pressure. It shouldn't have, because it's like a fixture you don't really expect to get much out of. But that was definitely a game where you could see the pressure amping up, and that built this narrative over the international break about, is there going to be another immediate change there, right? That only just really supercharged this narrative that he has got little to no time left, which is crazy when you think about it. But of course, as we may even get into later, it was just an appointment that didn't make sense on paper, doesn't appear to have made any shred of sense in reality for a number of different reasons. But yeah, beyond that, just as you're flicking through it, a lot of routine stuff. I think you're totally right, Jamie. Everton, good result for them. They look so energized under Moyes. Grealish getting the goal. They just look vibrant. They look like a Everton I haven't seen in years. Since Ancelotti, I think, was the last time, we're looking at a team this good for Everton. And beyond that, I do think it was, more of the same. Villa remembered how to score. They did enough to beat Burnley. So that a turning point for their season? We shall see. Obviously, Rodgers and Watkins getting involved with England is a good sign for Villa. But beyond that, it was pretty chill, except the big marquee game which delivered, which we'll talk about.
Ray can't wait to watch Liverpool's 4th loss in a row. I can tell you that if they do lose 4 in a row, especially to United at home, there are going to be many wheels that are coming off many buses, and I don't really want to think about what that world looks like. But let's talk about what Newcastle's world looks like. Sully, Glenn referred to it a little bit. I know Jimmy touched on it a little bit. Ange taking over at Forest, like Glenn was saying, kind of a weird role for him there. There was a fraction between Nuno and the owner. We knew that there wasn't really as good of a relationship there. I didn't think that it would end so soon, and I guess most Forest fans didn't either. But I guess it's one of those things that Newcastle was able to take advantage of, and talk to us about that game overall.
I think it highlighted that midfield and defensively, we are very stout. We are sound. That is not those are not areas where we need improvement. We just have to score goals. That is really what our season is going to come down to, is who is scoring the goals and how many of them are we getting. That game could have been much more lopsided. If you're looking at the box score, it's a Nick Voldemate penalty and a Bruno Guimaraes goal from play. Bruno goals from play are not what you can build a team around. That's not Bruno's strength. That's not what he was signed for. He's defensively strong, incredible playmaker, and he's going to hold it all together. He's not the guy you can rely on to put stuff in the back of the net. And Voltemade, all of this research I did on Voltemade after never knowing who he was until we signed him, I have not seen that player. I've seen a completely different player, and yet that player is still producing for us. So it's going to be very interesting once he gets settled. And my name tag tonight, he scored another header for Germany. This is a guy who was sub 5 headers his entire career, and he's got 2 for Newcastle and 1 for Germany in the span of 2 months. Is he a target man? Is he not a target man? What are we doing here? So
what a penalty, though.
What a penalty. What a penalty. He's a monster. He's a monster. And so, yeah, I don't know what to make of this Newcastle team, because it comes down to, can we score? And if the answer is no, we're probably going to lose that game, because the defense can only take so much. I've made this comparison on the show before. Being a Newcastle fan is a lot like being a Chicago Bears fan. You know the defense is going to show up every single day. The offense, every other season, you have a little bit of hope in the offense, and then by the 5th season, the offense clicks for that 1 year, and then it goes away. So we'll see what happens. But as long as we can find the goals, that's what this season is going to come down to. Can Eddie get these players in a position to score goals? And can Nick Voldemate be the guy until Vissa gets back? That's gonna be a plot line that I don't think enough people are talking about. Is can he? Bigger guys break down. He takes a bad tumble in the box, he's going a lot farther than somebody like Kieran Trippier. So we'll see what happens. But this game was a perfect microcosm. We dominated the game, but could not put away chances. We could not finish when we were in position. And I have Ray talking too much to ask from Voltemade to carry the whole attack. 100% true. 100%. Gordon and Barnes have to get going from that left-hand side, because that left-hand side opens up so much more for us. If we can attack down the left, we're in good shape. That's where goals need to come from. Last season, a lot of the assists came from the right-hand side with Jacob Murphy, and now we got Alenga, who is another assist machine. So if we can score goals, we're gonna be in every single game. It just all depends on if those goals happen and when do they happen. Does the team all of a sudden start finding its offensive footing in the 75th minute. If it's at that point, it's too late. Like Newcastle does not have the firepower it once had with. I'm not even gonna mention his name. I'm not gonna mention his name, but with a player who left us for a scummy kind of soulless club just a little bit south of us. But we don't have that firepower to be making the comebacks. That's not how we are built. We need to get out to a lead. The first half goals have to start coming. So if we can handle that, we're gonna be fine. But the whole first game was a microcosm of what we've been dealing with.
And I think, Glenn, to Ray's point here with Tonali, Guimaraes, and Joelinton being pretty mean top four midfield, you could argue that Newcastle has probably one of the best midfields in
I got some mouse traps around here, Matoush. Like you should watch where you're walking if you come over.
I guess so. Glenn, the question is there a better midfield in the Prem right now, healthy, than those three? I think I can also give this to Jamie afterwards as well, because I think Chelsea does have a strong case at one of the best midfields in the Premier League. But Glenn, do you feel like those three kind of they complement each other so well, and they all do different things together, but in the right ways, that it's hard to find a better three that are better suited for each other on one team?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I mean, my mind only really goes to Arsenal when you look at, if he were fit. This is the question mark, right? Odegaard is no longer fit, right? If Odegaard was fit, him, Rice, Eze, I mean, you look at the quality on the bench as well. You got Zubamende coming on. I mean, that is a midfield to me that would be equal to, if not better than the Newcastle midfield. Player to player, I think it is better. But as a unit, and the fact that Odegaard isn't fit and is going to be out till November, right? I think I was reading this morning. There is something to be said for the quality of the Newcastle midfield, the tightness with which it plays, the kind of durability of it. Like, as Ray said, right? Guimaraes, Joelinton is tenacious. He's had such an incredible change in his career at Newcastle. Like, he was just, the way he's kicked on at the club and made himself integral has been so impressive after a strange old start at the club. And then Tonali, I mean, that's just a quality player. So yeah, it's a really good question. Looking at the other teams, even clubs at the top, Man City, it's transition. You couldn't compare. You could compare City's midfield to that, but you're missing players like De Bruyne that would immediately put that midfield above Newcastle's. No longer there. Tottenham's in transition, of course, and then obviously United. It's just like, it's really funny. United, player for player, you would think attacking midfield would be one of the best in the league, but it's just Man United right now. So yeah, I mean, I think you'd be hard pressed. I'd still say Arsenal. I think Arsenal have such a Rolls Royce midfield, but you'd be hard. It's hard to find a better, more robust and experienced playing together, a togetherness kind of feeling in a midfield than Newcastle's. And you're right, Sully, it's just a question of goals. I mean, Gordon getting on the score sheet for England's promising. You just need something to click, and it is hard for you guys that you spend the money on Visser. Immediately a pretty major injury like that throws these plans up in the air, right? That was fundamental to your summer strategy, was spending the Isak money on two players, and you're hoping that they can both rotate but both offer different things. And pressure's on Voldemort, but he's performed. And it's so interesting, Sully, what you said. Like, I watched the highlights too. I wasn't familiar with him. You're seeing a player before he comes to Newcastle. It's about dribbling. It's this incredible player who's really tall but has this incredible close control. And then he spent like a couple of weeks in England. He spent like 48 hours in England, and suddenly he's just like this classic, paradigmic, version of a big man up front who's troubling defenders at corners and stuff. So to me, Sully, that means this guy's got levels to his game, and he's a really complicated player. And I like that. I think it's good to have players who have depth. You're a bit like João Pedro for Chelsea. That's a player that has different aspects to his game, which he's really good at. There's not many players like him in the league. So yeah, to answer your question though, yeah, I think that midfield it's strong. It's an impressive midfield. And I think defensively, like, Burn, Pope, Trippier, like, these are really robust, dependable Premier League players. So if you can get the goals flowing, there's a lot in that team with Eddie Howe managing it. There's a lot in that team to do well.
I would just push back on the Rolls-Royce comparison. Arsenal might be a Rolls-Royce, but if you're up in Newcastle, you need the off-road Land Rover,
Definitely.
bulletproof doors, you need the brush guard, and that's the Newcastle midfield.
That's so true.
So
The
from one
roads are from when the Romans were there. The roads are pretty good. You don't need enough rotor for that.
From one midfield to another, Jamie, big midfielder getting on the score sheet against Liverpool and Moises Caicedo. Obviously, we know the little bit of drama that was between Caicedo, Chelsea, Liverpool a couple of years ago, but big result for Chelsea. Honestly, at home, Stamford Bridge. What do you take away from that match the most?
That Maresca can make a tactical decision in the positive way. I think that it was really, really good to see Lavia get back on the field. He's been, I think he's played like 20 games for us in a couple of years. So I think we are a significantly better tactical outfit when he's on the pitch. He releases Caicedo to be more of a box to box threat, and he's better at passing, so he can help unlock and frees up Enzo as well. So I think that's fantastic. I think there's been a lot of conversation on who's the best midfielder in the league. I think it's been Rice Caicedo, and Paul Scholes came in with a Tonali pick this week, which was seemed a bit left field, but yeah, it just shows how good kind of that Newcastle midfield is. Personally, I would say that it's Arsenal's up there, Newcastle's certainly up there, Chelsea. I think we are there when we're all fit, but Enzo, I think, is still overrated. I mean, he had a part in the winning goal, so can't kind of rag on him too much. He also contributed most of our kind of takeaways, or like giving possession to Liverpool. Very lucky that you didn't counter on it, but yeah, good to see and great to see players step up who haven't played a significant part of the Chelsea squad this season. So Ashimpong and Badiashile were fantastic. You wouldn't have known that they are our third string centre backs.
Yeah, just one of those really, from a Liverpool perspective, one of those really debilitating losses. You feel like you stole a point, and then having Estevao hit that winner, pretty much in no time left, really does sting. But with comments like Ray here, we'll kind of try and transition to some comments from people who are watching here. I think Newcastle need to play Voltemade like City, play Haaland in a limited way, keep him in the box and scoring goals rather than getting involved in build-up play. I would disagree with that, because Voltemade, for me, he is very much a link-up kind of striker. He is not a target striker. I know that earlier you had mentioned that you could use him more as a target striker if he can find his head, but his strengths lie in him having the ball and then playing that pass and then finding the space afterwards. So I can get the sentiment of why you would want to play someone like that, but with his skill set, even though his size seems a little detrimental to him at times for that kind of way of play, it seems like the best way forward is to get him more of a false nine than a target nine.
Yeah, I got two sort of comments on this. One directly with Voltemade compared to Haaland. Haaland is 4 inches shorter and probably roughly the same weight, if not heavier, than Voltemade. Haaland can take up space. Haaland is a big physical player. Voltemade has not shown his physicality. Where he excels is he's just taller than everybody. He's just bigger than everybody else. So I would like to see him drop back a little bit more. And again, like I said, our goals came from the left-hand side a lot last season. If he drops back, Gordon Barnes making diagonal runs in to cover his space, there are goals to be had there.
Like Harry Kane, a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Now, what's interesting, I think, also is the fact that the four of us are having this discussion about midfields, and I think that is such a that is a new sort of way to look at the game. I mean, I think back to when I was, 2000 through like 2015 or so. Every team had a striker. Every team had that guy up top. That was sort of the key. I mean, any team that was winning the Premier League had a striker. That was their goal scorer. And where it almost changed was with City winning that first title and Dzeko not being the primary goal scorer and Aguero being the primary goal scorer. So I think it's interesting how the game has flipped, and I almost think it doesn't benefit Newcastle if there's so much focus on the midfield and the build-up play. What's the next step? What is the result from all that build-up play? It's not quite. I mean, we had our tiki-taka phase of world soccer. So it's like, where are we right now? We praise these glorious midfields, but goals aren't getting scored. I mean, like Liverpool had to go get our striker. Liverpool had to go do that. Jamie, who is Chelsea's striker at this point? Who is their goal scorer?
It should be João Pedro, but he's playing hurt. Like realistically, like Liam Delap would help spell him, so it's goals from wherever you can get him for Chelsea. Apparently, Moses Caicedo from way downtown.
And same for you, Glenn. Who is Brentford's striker?
Well, Thiago is the main man, but he's had something. To be fair to you, mate, he's had, we bought him for a record fee the summer before last. Horrendous injury issues. He barely played 90 minutes across last season. So A, he feels like a new signing, and B, he is in no ways battle tested for a long, hard Premier League season. He's not a Visser, who we know can score somehow with no penalties 20 goals a season. So you're totally right. But to your point as well, it's very interesting because Thiago is a typical strong big man who you kind of expect to hold it up and expect to score clinical goals, right? So we are almost following you in some ways in buying a kind of archetypal Premier League forward, which you don't always see. And I feel like it was just so interesting when Pep bucked that trend at City, right, and did bring Haaland in. It just felt like, is this a turning point in the Premier League? We're going back to this, right? Is it the end of false nines for a while?
But he kept he brought in a striker while keeping his possession dominated midfield. It's a very interesting. We are very much at a turning point, I think, in what sort of the next philosophy is going to be for world football, and it's going to be very interesting for teams like Man U. Can they grab the next coach who is promoting this new style? And I know I'm going long-winded on this. I know I'm going, well, hopefully, I know I'm going all over the map, but it's interesting to me that we are so focused on the midfield and maintaining the ball that we're forgetting about, hey, goals need to get scored. And I think the only reason I'm focusing on it is I know my midfield is great, but we can't buy a goal. So it's going to be very interesting, I think, post World Cup, where the philosophy is, and will this trend of starting to bring back the big, dominant, physical striker, is that coming back into vogue? And if so, I'm all for it. There's a little bit wish Maka was here. There's the old wrestling expression, big meaty boys. And I would be all about that. Give me the big meaty boys banging it up in the box.
Get it launched.
Yes, it's one of those things where we see, and it goes across to different sports as well. I think that you have this generation that's brought up a certain way, and these players are then brought up under coaches that want to play a certain way. And even though their bodies may not be adapted to that style of play, they have to adapt themselves to be able to give themselves the best shot, to be able to find a spot on a team. Because if this is the way, you either have to adapt or you don't get to be part of the squad. So I guess, so in talking about Pep and Haaland specifically, Glenn, let's go over to you. Tough loss against City right before the international break. What your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it was all right. It's been a forgettable game. It was a shame we reverted back to a back five. A lot of fans, after we played United off the stadium at the GTEC the previous game, absolutely just tore them apart. Our best performance of the season by a mile. We were hoping, right, as you'd expect, to stick with 4-3-3 and try and cause Man City some problems, right? We spent 40 million on Dango Atara, as I will say every week when he's not starting. it was a real shame to drop to 5 at the back, bring in Aya as the third centre-back. And yeah, we just immediately ceded possession to City, and it just felt like a very negative way to approach the game. City have so much quality, even if this team isn't the City of 2 or 3 years ago. Players like, Bob, Reinders, Foden, Savinho, Haaland, like this is just like, as a front five, that's still exceptionally good, regardless of whether it's been better. Rodri's obviously backfiring for them, even if he's not like 1,000% fit. This is just a really, really good team. Obviously, it goes without saying. And the fact that Haaland was in such red-hot form, it felt inevitable that he'd probably get a goal. And I thought that Haaland would be on the score sheet as a given this game, which gave me the sense that we had to be in the game for a point, we needed a goal. To be in the game for a win, we needed 2. I just knew City would score. It was a matter of if not when. And the fact that we did start so negatively was just a bit disappointing. For me, it took the oxygen out of the game early on. And although it was only 1-0 at half-time, that really flattered us. I think Phil Foden had 1 or 2 awesome chances to score. Like he's getting there. He's slow burning his way back to the player he was. Like he's had so many injury issues, crisis of confidence as well, right? He's talked about it being really hard for him on and off the field. And I love Phil Foden as a player, obviously not against me. And he had this incredible scoring record at the GTEC. Like he'd scored a stack of goals against us. And if you put 1 or 2 of them in, then suddenly it's 3-0 at half time. And the plan looks ridiculous. We scraped to half time with 1-0. But, we just never really looked like doing it. We had 1 golden chance, which, to your point, Sully, about forwards, Thiago, 1-on-1, if anyone saw the highlights, he should bury it. Donnarumma makes a huge save. Talk about an impact signing for them. Again, talk about philosophies, Sully, and think about the forward. Take it all the way back and think about the goalkeeper, right? You can have this same discussion at the opposite end of the field. And it's so interesting that Pep's gone from Ederson to Donnarumma. What does that say about the immediacy of which he needs success, right? Huge moment for them. But yeah, unfortunately, it just wasn't to be. Started off too negatively. 1-0 against City is never a hideous result, pretty much for most teams, unless you're trying to win the Premier League. But as a Brentford fan, I want us to try and beat Man City instead of not losing to them, because we've beaten them at the GTEC. We've beaten them at the Etihad. A lot of the same players are still with our team. And the fact we're benching Dango for a centre-back and then conceding after about, 9 minutes, it just felt needlessly defeatist. It just felt a little frustrating. And as a fan watching it, it just wasn't a particularly fun watch. 1-0 kind of flattered us in the whole. But, onwards and upwards. We'll talk about West Ham as the next game on Monday. You can't, we've put in a good performance against Chelsea. We beat Man United. Man United, Chelsea, City at home. Are you taking 4 points? Absolutely, as a Brentford fan. Absolutely. So, what could have been, and I really hope Keith Andrews keeps reflecting on 4-3-3, we score goals. Like Sully mentioned, we score goals, and the fans love it. 5-3-2, the fans are miserable, and we don't score goals. So I don't mind us losing if we play attacking football. Like, let's just be real. I do not mind that. I find it frustrating when we don't really try. And just a quick comment in the chat. Yeah, Kelleher, that was the moment of the international break. Beyond national teams succeeding, the individual moment of this international break with that iconic shot, which has gone viral, of Kelleher sky high, Ronaldo frustrated. Yeah, it's been great to see him thrive. He's been wishy-washy for us. He has not had the presence I was hoping for, but I know there's a world-class keeper in there, and Liverpool fans know that. He's, there's lots going on, right? He's not used to being the number one. He's not used to being high pressure every single week. I just want him to command the box the way he would for Ireland, and I'll be even more happy with him. But for him, as you said, just his last 3 saves, Ronaldo, Mbappe, Bruno. And our moment of the season as a fan was a Thiago goal against Man United and the penalty save. That penalty save is probably the loudest I've cheered this season. So I just want him to get better and better for us because he's a top keeper.
Yeah, I think the unfortunate habit of reverting into when you're playing against teams like City, right? When you're playing against teams like Arsenal, like Liverpool, like reverting back to that mentality of, oh, we are a smaller club. We need to kind of sit back and take this. That doesn't need to happen anymore. I think we've seen a lot of teams break that mold. Like you're saying, Keith Andrews has done a job showing that doesn't happen. Thomas Frank before that, obviously, right? There's plenty of moments where we've seen, and Josh in the comments asking Glenn specifically, what have you seen from Spurs since Frank took the helm? We'll get to that question a little bit. because I wanted to kind of go back to Ray asked, Chelsea, I feel, is very adaptive and tactical under Maresca. Because Jamie, earlier you said your biggest takeaway from the match against Liverpool is that Maresca has the ability to tactically perform as well. I don't know about your thoughts about him before this, if they were positive or not, but how confident do you feel with someone like Enzo Maresca at the helm of Chelsea Football Club?
He seems to have the players bought in. I was not fully convinced, and then the Club World Cup, we went on a run, and he managed the squad incredibly well, and had a game plan for PSG that worked, and that was almost a similar game plan here against Liverpool. We exploited Salah's, for lack of a better word, laziness, and Sanchez actually was pretty good at distribution. It was that out ball direct to the left winger, whomever happened to be at the time. And Szoboszlai was needing help and wasn't getting it. And Bradley got yellow carded, got taken off. Like that, we were causing problems down that left-hand side, and that was by design. And then starting Gusto in midfield, which looked surprising. When you saw the team sheet, you think, oh, they've got that round. That's probably James starting midfield. But Gusto was shadowing McAllister and marking him out the game. Those were all very, very intentional things that allowed us to dominate the individual battles elsewhere. So I think knowing that we had an extremely weakened side, no Cole Palmer, like everyone stepped up, but we did it because it was a game plan that allowed us to succeed. And I mean, we did get a little lucky, like straight after the restart, like Salah blows one over the bar. That could easily have been, and last season that would have been a goal. And everyone would have got off Florian Wirtz's back as well, because that would have been a beautiful assist. But you win some, you lose some, and I think we've been spawned by a few late goals. It's really nice to see. Esteval get that late one. The Rio, the kid that came from Chelsea, scored against Chelsea last minute. Nice to kind of repay that favor. I guess a new young kid, and Esteval marking his territory, let's say. Also really exciting that all the Chelsea players want to pass to him, because he really looks like he can get about. Great ball in for Enzo's header that unfortunately at the post. But yeah, exciting to see what's to come and to get some of these players back. I hope the centre backs who were our third string are not injured for too long. The international break obviously coming at a good time, but getting a few players back I think is going to be key. Palmer's probably not back for another couple of weeks or so.
Yeah, I think I remember early to mid-November back for Palmer. But if you can string a few results without Cole, that'll be huge going forward. And I think
it's nice to have Ange's Forest up next, right? Really?
Yes. So I guess with that in mind, maybe we take a look at. I know that there were a few headlines from the international break. We wanted to shout out like Cape Verde for qualifying. Faroe Islands close to being qualified as well. So it's great headlines from the international break. But looking forward to the league that we know and love so much and obsess over and feel like we can't live without. We do see Ange's Forest playing at home against Chelsea. So I know, Jamie, you touched on it a little bit. I would like to also say thank you to the Roma kit shout outs. It's very appreciated. I had no idea it was going to get so much love, but it's gotten a lot of love from everyone. So thank you guys very much. And Ozan Kabak, that Mo Salah miss and overall performance really enraged me as well. He is nothing like the Mo that we know. And I know you're kind of, unfortunately, as a player of his standard, when you don't reach that standard, it hurts that much more, because you can see it affect the rest of the team, and you feel like he's kind of done himself a disservice by having himself at such a high standard. But when you make that kind of money, when you get that new contract, when you are able to score and assist as much as you do, that's what you expect to see from players like Mo. So unfortunately, that's what we saw, and you hope that with Egypt's qualification over the international break, that could kind of really light a bit of a fire back up in Mo's ass, and in kind of being able to go back to the Mo that we saw last year, because it's been a rough go, especially on that right side. Feels like everything's disconnected. I know we talk about Liverpool way too much. Obviously, it's a Liverpool show, so we don't hear me talk too much about it. But that's just part of it.
Yeah, you're right.
We just,
But, I mean, as a
Literally no one
as a
wanted that.
neutral, it's like, is that based on his age? Is this the beginning of the end, or is it just a blip and he's going to be back after the international break? Interesting to observe.
yeah, I think the
Who
most
fucking
difficult
cares? It's Liverpool.
the most difficult question to answer is what is life like after Mo at Liverpool? And if this is the preview, all of you guys are going to be really enjoying it, and all of us are going to be absolutely miserable. So yeah, I guess so. We'll look towards the schedule here. Jamie, let's start with you. Chelsea visiting Forest after national break. Early morning kickoff. We once had a manager who was famous for complaining about these kinds of kickoffs annoyingly, which then led the team to not perform because they would listen to said manager complain about said kickoff time. Anything about this particular match outside of going away to the City Ground that you feel does this feel a bit of a trap game? Where are you going with this?
I mean, I'll start out by saying it's a little early for me on the West Coast, so if we can manage that a bit better, I'd appreciate it. But it's one of those, like, they can't lose every game, can they? And like Chelsea kind of coming off a high tends to be like, we're not the most consistent team, and we tend to leak goals. Robert Sanchez is rarely good 2 games in a row, so it makes I'm not like full of confidence heading into that game, but they have been shipping goals at a more alarming rate than, I mean, Chelsea and Liverpool and Man United. So we should be able to get past. If we can't get past Forest, then, I mean, Champions League qualification maybe shouldn't be where we set our sights. But I think it is. So we should be, like, and Maresca being rather advanced tactically and adaptive, should be able to come up with a game plan with the players we have available to overcome any threat Forest could throw at us. I mean, completely different team, different manager, but they were tasty and had our number last season. So I would like to hope we don't face that Forest. I don't think we will. And would like to see João Pedro get back on the score sheet, the goal involvement, something like that, because he's been working really hard for the team and playing through injuries. It'd be nice if he can get some reward for that.
Glenn, over to you. I guess I kind of accidentally skipped Sully, but oops, I didn't realize.
Not the first time.
Won't be the last time. Brentford goes away to West Ham on a Monday kickoff. Where are you at with that match there?
Yeah, we'll see. Obviously, we wish it was before the managerial change at West Ham, which feels like it's going to be a very, very positive one for them, right? So it feels like it's a shame to miss that. We will see. I mean, the win probability there, to be honest, is probably fair enough. I mean, I would have it literally 33, 33, 33. That's basically what it's at. It's one of those games to me, flip a coin. And it's one of those games I feel like I've said this before on the show, if you replayed it, if you simulated it 10 times, you'll probably get a load of different results. It's like there's no clear winner in that game. I hope we play 4-3-3 as discussed. I hope we start positively. West Ham they're not a good team, and there's loads of issues with their squad, with their structure. There's lots of bad things. But when you have players like Paqueta, like, he's just quality. He's just a quality Premier League player. And on his day, he can harm any team if he turns it on. And to his credit, he's been working really hard this season. He's just had no support. They've got a really busted midfield, basically. It's poor. But new manager, a bit of momentum. It's a shame. It's a game with the fixtures we've had. I mentioned Chelsea, United, City. I've mentioned all these hard games. The game that you have kind of just like, just you put a bit of highlights and you say, okay, at 3 points here would be great, but it's not the Potter team it was. We've won there before. We won there. We had a great win there a couple of years ago in the Prem, which was so much fun. Vista scored a great volley. We will see. I don't want to be like a fence sitter or just like not offering much information. It's just like, I think we're going to be evenly matched on the day, and I think it's going to be really fine margins. Put it this way, I'll be surprised if any of the teams win comfortably. I feel like it's going to be a 1-goal margin kind of game. Whoever gets that goal is probably going to be, to Sully's point, who's clinical in front of goal. Is it going to be Thiago? Is he going to score the one-on-one? Is Paqueta going to make a bit of space, win a penalty, and score it? I think it's going to be a fine margins game. I don't know if it's going to be a particularly aesthetic game or not. I don't know if I'd knock it down as like a note down as a televised must see at all. But I do think it's going to be an intriguing clash, right? And you've got two teams with trajectories, right? Brentford are a bit like this season. Obviously, West Ham have been like this, but they might be like this now. Be a really good kind of test to see where both teams are 8 game weeks into the season after an international break when Nuno's had time to kind of do his best with the squad.
Another intriguing matchup. Newcastle goes down south away to the Amex. Sully, your thoughts on that one?
I mean, I could echo everything Glenn just said. I think this is a great test for us. I think this is a team that we're going to be competing with for positions. I mean, like, it doesn't get any closer than that. That could be 33, 33, 33. Like,
it's right there. There you go, Sully.
Yeah, this is the type of game we need. Somebody who is very even with our, on paper skill ability. Brighton has never been an easy team. I mean, you look at the last 5 years, Brighton's competitive. So, I mean, I think it all once again comes down to who gets the first half goals. And what I really don't want to see is Eddie take too defensive of an approach. I think Eddie needs to go for this one. I think Eddie needs to go out and attack. And if we don't get any points out of it, okay, we saw that. We don't do that the following week. We know that that's not where Newcastle is yet. But I think Newcastle is still heavily in flux of what they want to be. I think this is going to be who scores first. It's first goal and then go home. So we'll see what happens. Newcastle's got some injuries that are lingering. I'm just hoping we get through October without anything more. Vissa should be back in November. Hall is up in the air. Livramento will be back in November. So we really just need to stop the bleeding. We need to get we need 3 points. We do need 3 points. Doesn't matter how we get it, but we need those 3 points to stay competitive until a lot of our reinforcements come back. And yeah, Josh, I completely agree. I mean, as I've shown before, I have a picture of Tonali above my head. He's just a horse. So we'll see what happens. But I think this one, the one area I'm gonna break away from Glenn with in terms of the Brentford game, I think this one's going to be must watch. I think this is going to be a highly entertaining game.
I agree.
If both teams get after it early. Like, Brighton's not built around their defense. That's not where they excel. They excel in fast, free-flowing, attacking football. So we'll see what happens, but I think this is going to be a very good game, and I think this game will be one that really shows what we can expect from Newcastle going forward.
Speaking of Sandro Tonali, a good segue into our Tonali's pick for this weekend. Jamie, let's start with you. Here are your choices. A couple possible interesting upsets brewing. Are there any that catch your eye specifically?
I think I see 2 potential draws on the radar. I think Fulham could potentially get a point at the Emirates, at Craven Cottage, and based on Liverpool's form, I could see that being a 1-1 draw.
That game doesn't exist. I can't scroll down. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think either team is going to thrash the other, but Liverpool should win. But based on the run of form, I could see United getting something.
Form goes out in a derby anyways. I think even in last year, for example, United was one of those matches where you you were supposed to take care of the team in front of you, whoever it was, and that was probably Trent's worst performance he's ever had wearing a Liverpool kit. It was a draw, just absolutely terrible. Conditions were bad, just an ugly, sloppy game overall. And so this specific match, when you go into something like this, it feels like form means nothing. So for good or for better or for worse, for both sides, we'll see how it ends up. But it's not a game that I think any Liverpool fan is comfortably going into.
No, you need to control the game, which Liverpool have not seemed able to do in the past few weeks. Man United is actually a very easy team to figure that out against. They're simple to play against, very predictable, but we'll see.
Glenn, how about you? Any Tonali's picks that you would like to nominate for this weekend?
Yeah, a lot of really watchable games. First of all, Crystal Palace Bournemouth, that's going to be great. Spurs Villa, that's going to be great. Even Burnley Leeds, that's going to be really interesting to see which way that falls, right? That's a 6-pointer. You see Sunderland flying, you see Burnley and Leeds scrapping a bit more. That's going to be maybe not an aesthetic game, but that's going to be a real hard-fought game. I think Liverpool are going to batter United personally. I think it's going to be 3 or 4-0. That's what I think about that. I think I just think at Anfield, even with the pressure valve building for you guys with a run of poor results and disappointing performances, I think you've got more than enough in the tank. My tonight's pick, I mean, the way the season's gone, I'm sorry, Jamie, it would be really, really funny if Ange got a win against you guys. Because
I'd say it was possible.
I think it's very possible because you guys are not that tight at the back this season. You mentioned Sanchez. I mean, you were just not as defensively sound. You certainly weren't against us when I watched you a couple weeks ago. I can see Forest beating Chelsea. It might be really funny if they did for a number of reasons. But like if Ange was like nearly out the door, which he may well be, we just don't know with these reports. They're so conflicting. And this is the kind of clickbait you get during the international break. It's just like, you hate to be a manager under pressure during the international break because everyone talks it up and everyone is an echo chamber. It's Rafa Benitez. It's Sean Dyche. It's like, whatever. But if Ange were to get a win against you guys, that'd be really interesting to see how much longer he could last because he's got to win at some point or he's going to be fired, right? That's where we're at. It's probably this game. I can see Forest beating you. I wouldn't be surprised. And beyond that, yeah, there's a lot of even games. But honestly, just look at the fixtures. It makes me excited for the weekend because, again, there's a stack of... that Palace-Bournemouth game. That's two of the more overachieving teams in the last year or 12 months in the Premier League that you'll see. And, yeah, even Sully's game. I mean, Brighton are just a team. We said this last season on this show about around Christmas. Like, are Brighton good? Are they not? And I look at the table... They're like 12th, won a few, lost a few, drawn a few. That to me is embodied Brighton in the last 12 months. Like, I don't think the fans are super, super high on the manager. Brighton just feel like an unknown quantity to me the last year or two. Like, they're a good team. They're fundamental overachievers. They have a great business model. I don't doubt any of that. And they're a huge cash cow for it to, to sell that much to Chelsea every season. I mean, it's hard to, like Brentford, we have similar models. We know that. But Brighton, this is the season because I for context, I lived at the University of Sussex campus. You can see the Amex from the campus. I would go watch their games pretty much week in, week out with the student paper, and like I feel very close to Brighton, not as a second team, but just I feel a close affinity to them. This is the season. I'm like, are you good? Are you not? You have like a rotating midfield of like 6 guys who are all quite good, but all get injured all the time. So I'm really intrigued to see how the Newcastle Brighton game pans out because like. That could be a decent match, Sully, I reckon. I think you're spot on with that.
I think outside of, obviously, our own matches that we're interested in, I think Brighton-Newcastle looks like the most intriguing matchup. And Hassan here saying, Everton taking points from City. Sully, do you buy any of that?
I like it.
Yes, that was I've been in the lab a little bit.
I thought you were going to say you were concussed because that would make sense then if you're taking points from City.
That also checks out. I mean, like, it's CTE kind of runs in my genetics. But part of my parlay was actually Everton taking a point. I think Everton travels. I think Everton has the team that it's like, fuck where we play. We can play. Like, I think they have a lot of faith in Moyes. I mean, Grealish has been a revelation to that team. And I think, thinking like Jack Grealish, That man's petty. I could see him.
He can't play, Sully.
He can't play.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hard?
that's yeah. Because he's on loan. He's not allowed.
Yep. Parent club.
that's some shit. But
So-
anywho, well, I think Jack Grealish gives them a hell of a pep talk in the locker room. Then he goes.
Yes.
He goes verbally against his parent club. But I think there's potential for Everton there. I really, really do. So if I was to build like a mini parlay, I would take Everton for the draw. I think I would take the over in the Newcastle game. I think goals are going to start flowing. If it gets going early on, like if we see like a 25-minute goal, I think there could be a lot of open play, and especially if Eddie decides to go for it. If Eddie decides to go attacking, I think there will be goals. I think that's what he needs to have his focus being, is not trying to not lose games. I think he needs to go out and try and win some games. That's where I think if I'm telling you, if those goals get going early, smash that over, live bet that, all that sort of thing. But if I like to a parlay, I like to round out with 3. I could see Villa taking points from Everton or from Tottenham. Tottenham just had an NFL game played on their field. We'll see how the conditions of the pitch are, but I could see Villa taking something from Tottenham. So we'll go with the whole wrap up: Everton draw, Newcastle over, Villa something. I think that's the move this weekend. And gotta say, I think that Palace Bournemouth game might be a split screen for me. That game is going to be very entertaining. Those are two, I don't want to say carbon copies, but those are two clubs roughly in the same place. Palace has more silverware to their name from last season, but Bournemouth are no slouches. Those guys can play. So and those are the teams I'm kind of watching this season. The Bournemouths, the Palaces, obviously I'm watching Newcastle, Brighton, Brentford. Those are going to be the teams that the middle of your table shows the strength of your league. So if the Premier League is everything it's cracked up to be, those 5 teams, and hell, throw Everton in there. Throw Everton in there as a 6th. I mean, that's the meat of the Premier League, and none of those teams are teams you want to go see on a Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah, and I think the big thing too that the Prem needs to avoid is the 3 up, 3 down. That's kind of been a rough pattern in recent. I don't think we'll necessarily see it this year. It's still so early. I know Sunderland has had a great start to the season. I don't think that they can keep that form throughout the entire year, but if we can at least have 1 or 2 of the newly promoted sides stay up, I think it's going to be massive for the league. In a situation where a lot of talk is said about how top heavy this league is, and in a rotational up 3 down 3 is not a good look to have on your league.
I think if you're feeling spicy, sprinkle a little bit on Wolves. I could see Wolves taking something from Sunderland. I don't think Sunderland is as good as they think they are, and that's also partially my bias. The only team I hate more than Liverpool at this moment is Sunderland, but at the same time, I have a lot of healthy respect for Sunderland. So we'll see what happens. But if you're feeling feisty, throw something on Wolves for that 4th pick in a parlay, and we get our striker academy going, and we are the leading force behind the push towards striker-oriented football.
I think that's Liverpool. They're just trying to buy them all like Pokemon.
Yeah, fuck Liverpool.
Well, as long as, once they're healthy, and we'll see how things go. But I don't think Wolves is getting much out of Sunderland at the Stadium of Light. I think, Glenn, we talked about
Stadium of Shite.
That is a tough place to play, and so especially for a team like Wolves who are struggling as is, it's not going to be an easy place to play. So, we're not sponsored by FanDuel, but if you can find all of Sully's picks on there, and I don't know what Aston Villa something is on FanDuel, but if you find it and you play it and you get the parlay, you guys let us know, and we'll bring you on the next week's show to gloat about how much money you won from the parlay. Any parting thoughts from you guys? Let's start with Jamie. Anything you want to get off your chest? Anything you want to say before we wrap it up here?
I think if Ange loses, he's going to get fired before Monday morning.
It's a big call.
We'll
It's a very
see.
big call. Glenn?
Yeah, agreed. The writing feels like it's on the wall already, which is absolutely crazy. Yeah, I mean, I think Liverpool are going to batter United. I want to instill a bit of faith in the Liverpool fans watching. Oh yeah, and thoughts on Spurs, Josh? Oh yeah. Sorry, we forgot about that. I mean, the table speaks for itself. Third place, really, really impressive. That's despite a run of kind of disappointing results they've had. The Wolves game was bleak. I watched a bit of that. It was a horrible game of football. But they got the win at Leeds, which is no mean feat at all. I think Spurs are going to look really good this season. I think Thomas Frank is going to demonstrate he is the manager that Brentford fans know he is, and smart, astute watchers of the Premier League know he is, to get us playing that well despite budget issues, injury issues. Like we were and are plagued by injuries as a football club in the Premier League, like others, but for a club with a smaller squad, that really hurts. And for Frank to show so much tactical nous in his time here, like, yeah, of course we miss him. And like, it's just brutal that he's gone, really, to be honest. It was worse than Visser or Mbumo going. But at the same time, I want him to do well. Like, I hope he succeeds at Spurs. There's no bitterness at all. But I think you can tell they look a real slick team under him. Like, they're not the finished product. The Wolves 90 minutes, as I said, was a horrible game of football. But defensively, like, they look really sound. Looking at that back line, I mean, you talk Romero, Van der Ven. I mean, that is a really strong centre-back partnership in the Premier League. You throw in somebody like Pedro Porro as well, or Spence, who's been back to his best this season. That's a really mean back four. That's like a really, really good Premier League back four. So if he can get Simons playing well, if he can get some goals, that's going to always be the issue with Spurs, I think, just like consistent goals from them. It's always an issue. Solanke's got so many injury issues. But I think Spurs are going to be a real consistent team. I think they'll be top. And I think they're a shoo-in for top 6, which sounds like, oh, okay, sure. But if you remember, they finished 17th last season. If he takes them up nearly 10 places, they're in 3rd place right now. That is magnificent for a new manager at a brand new team. He's been at Brentford for years, like 6-7 years. Longer than I've been in America. So it's at least 6 or 7 years. So, yeah, I think he's going to really demonstrate to anyone who watches the Premier League that he's a seriously good manager. And good for him. I hope he succeeds.
Sully, any parting thoughts?
Just kind of going back to the international break, while I am not a fan of the diluting of the World Cup qualifying pool, I am also a huge fan of these tiny nations qualifying. I mean, other than in American sports with March Madness, there are very few sporting competitions that put such giants in the world versus such tiny places. And with March Madness, you're always looking for that small team to beat the big team. Well, guess what? When you play the World Cup, it's not like a small neighborhood in a big city. It's an entire country. And Cape Verde, New Caledonia, and who was our third? We were talking
Faroe
about
Islands. We're talking about
Faroe Islands. All 3 of those countries getting great results over over the international break. Faroe Islands is not going to qualify, but the fact that they beat Sweden and dusted up that rat that plays up top for Sweden, more power to them. Great on the Faroe Islands.
Yeah, Joker is the worst, man. I agree.
Yep, nailed it. I think Isak actually made an appearance. Was it during the Wales game where he ran across the pitch and they had to stop the game? Did any of you see that clip?
No.
Oh, the large rat that ran across the field, and they had to stop the game. There was a wildlife incident, and I think it was Alexander Isak.
The
But
rodent.
with that being said, hats off to Cape Verde, and good for like New Caledonia. I'm cheering for you. Like I teach geography. I love these out of the way places. If these two teams qualify, I mean that's what this is all about. That's what we are all doing with soccer. We love this. We love the underdog story. We love what it does to a collective group of people. So my final thoughts are just I'm buying a fucking Cape Verde jersey. Like that's who I'm riding with. If I put $1 on them to win the World Cup, that's the best thing I can do. So you know what? Go Cape Verde. You're my team for this World Cup, and that's my final thought.
And there's a chance that they could play in St. Louis, just a few hours away from where you currently reside. So you could even make it a point to go see them live as well.
I would save your $1 to put towards tickets because they're not cheap.
No, they are not. My brother got the pre-sale yesterday, and I nearly murdered him through the phone. So I also try to not make it a point to cross below Peoria, Matoush.
Okay.
So I might go to KC. KC is kind of my target.
Okay, that's fair. I think across the country, I'm a little disappointed Chicago wasn't chosen as one of the cities. Again, it's part of it was the politics behind who was in Chicago, whatever it is. But the money side of it is absolutely ridiculous. I think people around the world are seeing how used to sporting events Americans are, or how used to how expensive sporting events Americans are, and how they don't put up a fight against it. Because now you see all these World Cup tickets being the price they are, and people going, "Is this normal?" And then Americans going, "Yeah, I mean, yeah, for the most part, right?" Like, so it's insane.
I'm going to Ireland versus New Zealand rugby first weekend in November. Mediocre tickets, walk-in price $150 without question.
That's wild. Absolutely
And
wild.
it's a fucking exhibition game.
Yeah, those are the kind of prices that we talk about. I think I went to the Liverpool United friendly in South Carolina last summer, $250 per ticket. It's just it hurt, but at the same time, you make it an experience. You take the road trip, you do what you can to make the most out of it, and you get what you get out of it. And thankfully, we didn't see a drubbing one way or the other. So from everyone here. Yes.
I was gonna say, Josh must be in my DMs. He's seen all the texts I've sent back and forth about this absolute barn burner of a game that we're gonna get to see. And
Josh, this is what happens when you make too many parlays. You have to take a second mortgage out. So please, only listen to Sully for so long about these kinds of bets, because then we're gonna be out another mortgage. So for everyone here at the ASTV EPL Panel Show, thank you guys so much for joining. We'll be back next week, and I hope you guys have a fantastic week. Adios.
See you guys. Thank you.